Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Glad you could join us. Today we're tackling a real film classic, 12 Angry Men. And the insights we're digging into come from www.epistles.online, which offers this, well, pretty fascinating interpretation. They actually call it a pro-life masterclass.
Yeah,
So let's explore that. It's definitely a thought-provoking angle.
it really is. I mean, you remember the setup, right? 12 jurors packed into this incredibly hot, uncomfortable room. And there's an 18-year-old boy's life hanging in the balance. He's accused of murdering his own father. And right from the start, the first vote, it's almost unanimous. Guilty. Seems like a done deal.
Yeah, open and shut.
Until juror #8, just one guy, pipes up. He simply says, I don't know, I think we should talk about it.
Yeah.
And that one little pause, that request to just talk, it changes everything.
Exactly. And that's really the jumping off point for our deep dive today. The source material explores how this really powerful movie, which, let's be clear, isn't a Catholic film in itself,
No, not at all.
seen as this pro-life masterclass. Now, it's important to understand what the source means by pro-life here. I mean, they're broadening it out. It's not just about abortion or, euthanasia. It's about a fundamental respect for all human life, the dignity of every single person, especially those who are maybe marginalized or accused, like the boy in the film. So the idea is that the film's whole context really promotes these universal values that, well, they resonate strongly with Catholic teachings on life and dignity.
Yeah, and what's so powerful is how the film sets up the accused boy right away. He's basically someone society finds it easy to dismiss. He's poor, from a rough neighborhood, broken home, already has a bit of a record.
The kind of person people might call a lost cause.
Exactly. Makes it super easy for those other jurors, at first anyway, to just write him off. They're seeing a stereotype, not really a person.
And that's interesting because the film isn't about like big speeches. It's about these small moral choices, isn't it? And carefully taking apart prejudice. Our source really highlights how juror #8's focus on the process, just making sure they do it right, that becomes the masterclass.
Right. It's not even that he's convinced the boy is innocent initially.
No, he just insists they actually look at the evidence, question the testimony, poke holes in those easy assumptions. He forces the others to face their own biases.
Whether it's the guy who just snaps, it's obvious, or the other one with his personal issues against young men.
Yeah, it's like this boy's life is just an inconvenience getting in the way of them going home.
Which really makes you think, doesn't it? How easily can we sometimes treat a life as disposable, especially if that person doesn't quite fit our expectations? The film's call is quieter, it's for reason, yeah, but also compassion, humility. Like you said, juror #8 wasn't sure the boy was innocent, he just wasn't sure he was guilty. And that doubt, that crucial bit of uncertainty, was enough.
Reasonable doubt.
Exactly. Enough to demand they actually talk it through properly. And the source argues that that insistence, that demand for a fair look, shows the dignity you have to give any life before making such a final judgment.
It definitely champions that universal human dignity, however you look at it, secularly or spiritually. And that's where the source, www.epistles.online, brings in that deeper spiritual connection they see.
Right.
They show how these universal values in the film really echo and are grounded in teachings like those found in the Catholic Church.
Yeah, and it's important how they frame it. We often hear pro-life linked to the start of life conception.
Sure.
But the core idea, like in the Catechism, human life must be respected and protected absolutely from the moment of conception. That sets a foundation for valuing all human life, always.
Yeah.
So the source says, look, that reverence extends to everyone. Doesn't matter their age, background, what they're accused of, everyone.
So the fight in that jury room for the boy.
Becomes this powerful example of that bigger teaching. It reminds us, like Scripture says, not to judge just by appearances, but to judge rightly. Every person, even someone accused, even someone maybe broken, has this immense dignity.
That dignity point really hits home, especially when you think, like the source points out, the film shows not just prejudice, but the actual hard work needed to push back against it.
It takes effort.
Yeah, whether we're talking a jury room or, voting or even just conversations around the dinner table, we're supposed to use our reason, and the source would add faith and love to protect life. 12 Angry Men? Okay, it's about a jury, but it feels like this timeless reminder, doesn't it? That duty we have to just pause, to think, to really try and see the human being behind whatever label or assumption we might have. So wrapping this up, what's the big takeaway for you listening?
I think it's seeing how a film that isn't overtly religious can still powerfully back up these universal values. Dignity, thinking critically, that moral need to pause before we judge, and how those values connect deeply with specific spiritual teachings. And maybe it leaves us with a question to chew on. Where in our own lives, are we maybe tempted to make snap judgments about people? What would it actually take to pause, to really think, and make the effort to see the full person behind our assumptions?
That's a really important question. Definitely something to reflect on. Well, thank you for joining us for this deep dive. And remember, you can explore more insightful content like this over at www.epistles.online.